Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Welcome once again to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Man, I've been waiting for this interview ever since I watched the coverage of the UKC Tournament of Champions coming out of Greencastle, Indiana. What an exciting time it's been, the second year of the Tournament of Champions. I was privileged to be on the media team the first year, or last year, and I got to watch it this year like most of you from my easy chair. Our guest today is the guy that won the whole enchilada. He won the whole deal, took home a check in the amount of 50,000 big ones. So we're going to be talking to J.R. Gray here in just a minute. I want to take just a second to thank the people out at W Hunting Supply that make this podcast possible. Buddy Woodbury, Jason Doobie, my buddy out there that kind of looks after me, Shannon, my producer, all those great folks out there. They have great supplies, anything that you'd need in the realm of coon hunting supplies for you, the hounds, for your apparel, and especially the electronic side of things, which is such an important part of our coon hunting experience these days. And they back it all up with some great customer service. So there we go. We've paid the bills for the week, and we can get right into talking to our guest today, Mr. J.R. Gray. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. It's really good to catch up with you. I think this is the first time you and I have really had a conversation, and I've been kind of following you ever since you made all that noise back in 2018. Some people live a lifetime or hunt for a lifetime without winning a world championship, and you go out and win two in the same year. What's going on?
Well, we get lucky every now and then.
Well, the old saying is, we'd rather be lucky than good, wouldn't we?
Absolutely, any day of the week.
Well, JR, it is a real privilege to be able to talk to you today and share your story with our listeners. And this podcast is growing by leaps and bounds. We're appreciating the consistency that we're getting episode after episode. It seems like, we're growing, and so I know people are really looking forward to meeting you and hearing your story. I want you to tell me a little bit about who J.R. Gray is, your background, where you live now, where you were born, how old you are. Just stuff like that about your family. I know we talked just a minute ago. You've got a new addition that you can tell us about. So can you give me a little bit of backstory there, JR?
Yeah, I'm 27 years old. I was born in Manchester, Kentucky, and I live now in London, Kentucky. And I've been married for 3 years this May to Tara Gray. And about 6 weeks ago, I just had a little girl named Ellie James Gray.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's how old? You said about 6 weeks now?
Yeah, she'll be 6 weeks old tomorrow.
Oh, boy. I tell you what. And she's got daddy wrapped around her finger, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's got everybody wrapped.
I got you. Well, now, do you and your wife's families live around you there?
Yeah, we built a house back in 19. I live about 7 miles from my mom and dad, and we probably live about 10 miles from her mom and dad. We're kind of right in the middle.
Okay.
So it works out pretty good.
Yeah, so you got plenty of grandma support there when of taking care of the baby and all.
A lot of babysitters.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So were you born right there in that area, JR?
Yeah. I was actually born I've been raised That's probably about 7 or 8 miles from where I live now.
Oh, that's awesome. I always was kind of envious of people that, got to grow up and still live in the area where they were raised. I was raised on the corner on the edge of a little town in West Virginia that grew into a pretty good sized city over time. But I had country right across the highway from me, but I was actually born in city limits. But I wouldn't want to go back there now and live there because of the way things have changed. But always been kind of envious of people to get to grow up in an area and so forth. Well, listen, what type of work do you do, JR?
Well, I work for my father-in-law right now in a finance company. I've been there, I guess, about 3 years now. I was driving a truck for my uncle, and I was working 80 and 90 hours a week. And my father-in-law, he said, buddy, he said, how about you just come work for me? You run them dogs and take care of my little girl. I said, well, that sounds like a plan.
Man, such a deal. Where do you sign up for a deal like that, Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you work in a finance company. So you're behind the desk then.
Oh, yeah, I do what I do best, just talk on the phone.
Well, we're going to get to see some of that, those skills over the next hour or so. And all right, well, let's talk a little bit about your coon hunting background. How did that all start for you?
Well, I guess you can say I've coon hunted my whole life pretty much, besides a couple of years. My dad, my papa, especially my uncle, we've always had dogs, whether it's been coon hounds or rabbit dogs, or I never have really messed with many squirrel dogs, but mainly rabbit dogs up until probably the last 7 or 8 years.
Well, did you do any competition hunting in with the beagles?
No, I was completely opposite. In the beagles, I didn't care if they had any papers. Didn't care nothing really, as long as I could go out and kill rabbits with them. That was the main goal for me.
Well, I got you. Well, you around London, Kentucky. That's hill country, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not too bad, but now you take about 10 or 15 minutes back toward Manchester, where I was raised, and you can get some pretty good hills.
I see. Is there any coal mining in that country?
They was, but it's about all gone now.
That all dried up.
I mean, they may be a couple right here within 30 or 40 minutes, but they're about dried up now.
I got you. My grandparents were from eastern Kentucky, but they were up around Paintsville and Van Leer and up in that way, up toward the Tug River area, up in that way. But okay, so. Well, anyway, right around there where you are, is there any old strip mines and that sort of thing? Do you hunt any of that kind?
Yeah. That's what we rabbit hunted a lot. But I mean, anymore, it's just getting so hard to find places that you can actually hunt. I mean, we was losing spots left and right. It seemed like 10 years ago I could take you and you could hunt anywhere you wanted to, and then in the last 3 to 4 years, especially right before we got out of the beagles. I mean, it just got to where, we had these 3 or 4 places, if there was a house within a half a mile, seemed like they didn't want you to be there. So we just kind of said, we're just going to give it up and stick to coon hunting.
Well, I got you. One thing about it, coon hunting, for the most part, is kind of a low-impact sport. I know all the years I lived in Michigan and hunted up there, there was a lot of areas that I hunted that I'm sure those people had no idea that there was any coon hunting going on, Of course, I had permission on the farms that I hunted on, but sometimes dogs don't always stay on the patch of ground you set them down on, as you know.
Right.
And but anyway, coon hunting takes place when most people are home in bed, or all the sane people are home watching TV, or. Well, we're out there in the dark of night. Well, how old were you when you began coon hunting?
Well, I can, we got pictures and stuff, and I can remember back when I was 3 or 4 year old. It was like every Saturday night deal. My dad, he worked in the coal mines, and he worked 70 and 80 hours a week.
Whoa. And
really Saturday night was really the only night we got to go. But every Saturday night we was consistent. We'd go and lay out all night and get in, 7:30, 8 o'clock the next morning, 4 or 5 of us, then Mom have us back up at 10 o'clock headed to church.
Ah, well, good for her. Well, that was always the way with me too back there in the day. We could lay out all night on Saturday night, but we were still going to church on Sunday morning, no question about it. But well, that's great. So your dad was a coon hunter. Coon hunter and a coal miner, then, right?
Yeah. Well, he was an off-road mechanic. He went out like them 777s and dozers, D11s, and pretty much anything, the big tires, and tracks. He always done that, I guess you'd say the surface mining. He was always out there working on something.
Yeah. Well, you and I are quite a bit different in age. How old are you, JR?
27. I'll be 28 next month.
27 years old. Okay. I am 48 years older than you.
You got a little more experience than me.
I don't know. I got a lot of miles. I know that. Usually when you get a lot of miles on a vehicle, you trade it in and get another one. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But, well, I'm sure you had some great experiences. Did you have any boyhood friends or cousins or siblings or anything that hunted with you when you first started?
Yeah. Me and my cousin Joey. We grew up together. We was first cousins. I was the only child, but you would never knew it because anywhere you seen Joey, you seen me.
I see.
We was pretty much all through middle school, high school, all the way up till now. He's a lineman now. He don't get to go like he does, used to, but every chance he gets to go, normally he'll load up and go with us. If not, then I'll have his little boy with me. He loves it. He actually loves them dogs. Joey, he was kind of more of I guess you'd say he liked turkey hunting, deer hunting. I was always the one that liked dogs, but me and him just enjoyed being with each other. So I'd go with him and he'd go with me.
Well, that's great. And I know, and I'll give you throw you a little bone here a little bit. I know one time I think it was John Wick in the last year or so wrote an article in American Cooner about why coon hunters don't smile in their pictures and all. And you're always smiling and looking like a pretty happy guy. Does that kind of describe you? You have a pretty positive outlook on life?
Yeah, man. I tell you, I've been blessed way more than I deserve. I got an awesome wife, a healthy baby, great parents, got a lot of, good friends, people I hunt with. It's just, that's the main thing. We pretty much look at these hunts. We're going to go to them. It's kind of like a vacation for us. If we go win, that's just a bonus. We don't do it for a job. We do it just because it's fun. And I think as long as you look at it that way, you'll be a lot better off.
Well, I have to agree with you, JR. I've seen it both ways. I don't know if you know anything about me, but I worked for 30-some years with the registries. I worked at UKC, PKC, and AKC. And over the years, I've met a lot of hunters, and, I've seen it both ways. And the guys that like you with the attitude you have seem to be the ones that get the most out of the sport. When it becomes a job or it becomes a must-win situation, I've seen so many people down through the years, if they didn't win, they didn't have a good time. And I think that's probably not a good attitude to have. I think you'll have a lot more fun if you go to meet the people, enjoy the dogs, see the good dog work. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree. Absolutely. I think a lot of people, they get out there, and some people, financially, I think, some people they'll go and, whatever they make, they'll spend it the next weekend at a hunt. And if they don't win, they're going to be sitting pretty tight for the next week. And I just think, I don't know, I think people gets a little bit carried away. Myself, I think, they take the fun out of it. When they start making it a job, they take what it's really about out of the equation.
I had a friend years ago named Les Rogers. He hunted blue ticks. He was from, I think, originally maybe Alabama. He lived in North Carolina for many years, and he worked for Purina as a rep for them. But he used to always say, boys, it's only a game, And it is. It's a game that we play with dogs. It really shouldn't be I had a plaque one time in my office that said, "Hunting's not a matter of life and death; it's much more important than that." But that was more or less a joke, you know. But I think you're right. I think a lot of guys do take it way too seriously, and I know some of these fellas today that are paying these. Well, they usually have a sponsor or an owner that's paying these extremely high entry fees that we see nowadays. And of course, the return is extremely high as well. But I just wonder how much fun they're having. I'd like to interview some of those guys and ask them, you know, has it become a job or is it something that you still enjoy, you know? But, well, thank you for that background. Are your parents, you mentioned that your parents live nearby and all. Does your dad still hunt?
No, he don't hunt. I mean, he hasn't. I guess my dad actually ain't coon hunted in probably 10 years. But now I tell you what, he's the backbone of the company down here. I mean, if I need a dog to go to the vet, or if somebody needs to come breed a dog, or anything and everything, my dad, he's a number one. I mean, he's right there. I can call him any time of the day or night and be like, "Hey, can you take this dog here? Or can you go meet this guy or whatever?" He don't ask nothing. He just goes.
That's awesome. Let's give him a shout out. What's his name?
Stanley Gray.
Stanley Gray, and he lives in London?
He lives in Manchester.
Manchester, okay. Well, there you go, Stanley. We want to be sure and give you the recognition you deserve there, for sure.
Yeah, it takes when you got a dog that you're trying to promote and you're gone and stuff, it takes a village of people, I mean, to try to, try to make everything work. And it definitely, I mean, if I'm going to a hunt or something, I mean, he's right here taking care of everything while I'm gone.
Well, I don't usually quote Hillary Clinton on this podcast, but you're right. It does. It takes that support, and and obviously you got it. I ran into one of your buddies out in Mississippi just a few years ago. A couple of guys that I think pretty good. Do you know a guy named Flop?
Yeah.
You know Micah Ayers.
Oh yeah, that's the president of the Black and Tan Association there.
Yeah, they were out there. I think. Well, I don't know. We were out there, I think, on the way to White River, but might have been Winter Classic. I think we were.
I would say the Winter Classic.
Yeah, that's what it was. My buddy Nubbin Moore, who's a Black and Tan man at heart. But like most of us, they get around to hunting walkers sooner or later.
They seen the light.
See the light, that's for sure. But anyway, I sure had a nice evening. Got to go hunting with those boys and their dogs and all, and really, really enjoyed that experience. And I've seen where you've mentioned Micah and seen pictures of you and him with your dogs and all. So that's great. Makes me envious a little bit. JR to want.
I tell you, they ain't no better person than Mike Ayers. I mean, to be honest with you, I wasn't even, as far as in the coon hunting world, they probably wouldn't even nobody know who I was if it wasn't for Mike. I mean, it's kind of a long story about that.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, me and Micah, we started hunting together. I guess Superman was a 2-year-old and Willy was just a 1-year-old, and all of his, I guess you'd say, Black and Tan buddies or whatever, they kind of quit hunting or slowed down, and Micah was looking for somebody to hunt with. And I was working at Walmart DC at the time. Well, every Thursday night I would go up to my buddy Tony Bowman's up in northern Kentucky. It's about 2 hours north. And really, they wasn't nobody hunting with me. I'd just drive up, stay all night with Tony, and we'd hunt to daylight after I got off work. And, well, Micah, he kind of, he's not hitting around. There's a boy named Stephen Desarn kind of got us hooked up. He went hunting with me a couple of times. He said, "You and Micah, you'd be a good team." And we got to going up there, and man, it just, I don't know how to say it. I mean, he's just like a brother I never had. But anyways, getting on to the story I was trying to tell you about. So we go and I get qualified for the world. Well, I had Willy qualify for the world, I think 2 or 3 times, but I never really competition hunted besides the local hunts. And Mike was like, you need to go up here and hunt Autumn Oaks. He said, I think you'd enjoy it. Well, that's actually the first big hunt I was ever in. That was in 2017, and we go to Autumn Oaks, and I get Willy in the top 16 the first year. So that kind of had me hooked on that place. And we got all them people up there, and it's a pretty big deal. I enjoyed it.
You bet
well,
it is.
the next year, we go up there, and Micah, he's like, man, you need to go to the World Hunt. I got Superman qualified. You got Willy. I said, Micah, I ain't gonna mess with it. I just like coon hunt. And he kept on, and he's like, well, I'm gonna sign Superman up. If you don't sign Willy up, I'm signing you up. You gonna go with me to the zones, please? And he talked me into it. Well, we go up there to zones, and I double Willy up. He gets Superman in, and there's another guy in here named Eric Allen. We all three live about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from each other. And we hunt together.
What's in the water? Hey, time out here. What's in the water down there in that part of the country?
Buddy, I'd say there's a lot of stuff you probably wouldn't even want to know what's in the water down here.
Well, it produces coon dogs. I know that for sure. But go ahead.
So then we end up we get all three getting the top 100 of the the UKC world. Well, we go up or we walk in, I don't take nothing serious. I mean, I'm always cutting up and joking, trying to have a good time. We walk in there and I said, buddy, look over at that trophy. It's got my name on it. He said, do what? I said, yeah, go over and look at it. I was just kind of cutting up. Well, I think Micah and Eric, they get beat out the first round. And, I mean, it was just pretty much, he's like, you got to stay in this or whatever. And here I am, just cutting up. He said, you need to be a little more serious about this. And once he gets beat, he's my backup handler up there. And he just keeps on. We looked up, won the world hunt. And then a couple of weeks later, we end up going to the AKC world and winning it. And that's kind of, I guess, what got me, I guess you'd say, hooked.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to talk to you about both those experiences. But there's no doubt about it. Having a good hunting buddy, somebody to enjoy the sport with, it just makes it all that much better. And, I've got a friend in Alabama. My listeners have heard me talk about him many, many times. Arnold Nubbin Moore. Nubbin and I have traveled now many, many miles together. We worked on the same team at UKC. He was a field rep, and that's kind of how I started out, too, way back. And, so I understand what you're saying there about having a friend like Micah. And, since you've opened this door, we want to talk. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but of course we want to talk about these dogs. The dog that you were hunting at that time, of course, is the dog that you call Gray's Rack Em Willy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I believe he was 4 years old when you won the world hunt with him?
Yeah, he turned 4 in June, and we won the world hunt in September.
Okay. Well, now, first of all, I know that he was out of the Only Reason dog. Tell me a little bit about, you had the female named Stylish Page, right?
My uncle did.
That was your uncle's dog.
But it's my uncle's dog.
Okay. Now, if I remember right, she was a dual grand UKC.
Yeah, and she's a PKC. She's a PKC champion.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, if I knew what I know now, she would have been top of the line. I mean, she was another one. My uncle, he'd hunt the local hunts with her, and we took her up there one time on a free entry. I think he got her in the top 20 of the PKC world, and that was the only time she'd ever left, Kentucky. He took her to the Spring Classic a time or two, and took her to Labor Day Classic a time or two, and both times she got in. But other than that, she never left pretty much the surrounding counties. Now,
what's your uncle's name?
Jason Gray. He's
okay.
I would say he's the one, I guess, out of everybody, he's the one kind of got me into competition hunting.
Okay, so he has this female named Paige, and she's out of TrackMan. And Travis Brown's female, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I did an article on Travis. I think I mentioned that to you earlier, and really enjoyed that experience of talking to him and about his background. And he's been real successful with his dogs and his breeding program out there in Missouri. I believe he's in Missouri, isn't he? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what was who made the decision to breed Paige to Only Reason?
That was my Uncle Jason. He said, Paige, I guess you'd say us, we like, if I had a dog, if it treed the far out of coons, if it didn't have a big mouth, it wouldn't interest me a bit. I mean, that's just, we've always had, Paige, she had a big mouth, Willy, and so on like that. And, Willy's pups are the same way, but everybody talked about how loud Reason's pups was, and he was a good looking dog on top of that. And my uncle, Travis Brown, he always, if he bred anything, it was all grand. And, some people look down on it. Some people, or whatever, everybody's got their own opinion about it. But
it's about the only way we have to actually document whether a dog is a coon dog or not. And I'd say it can't hurt. I mean, the dog make a Grand Nite champion. He had to tree some coons on the way.
Absolutely, yeah. You ain't gonna get this cakewalk.
Right, right.
But that was two of the main reasons. I don't know. He may know more about the pedigree than I did. Like I said, I never did really up until we had Paige, and then we got Willy. I never did care about papers. As like I said, I just like the coon hunt. But he took her out there. We bred her. I think we met David there in I guess right there in St. Louis, and got her bred, and then come back home, and she had 6 pups, 2 males and 4 females. Well, the other male died like 2 days old, so that left, Willy and then his 4 other sisters.
Oh, I see. So did you pick Willy out of the litter, or how'd that go?
No, I picked Willy's sister, Paige. I picked her out, and my uncle kept Willy. Well, when Willy was 5 months old, 4.5, 5 months old, we had a coon pen, or my papa did, and my uncle got Willy running treeing coons and cats, and pretty much anything that would climb, he would tree at 4.5, 5 months old. Yeah. Well, I guess right before Willy got 6 months old, my uncle called me, and he said, "Hey, are you interested in this pup?" He said he's a ball-mouthed tree dog, and I don't really like it. I said, "Yeah." I said, I'll take him. So I went over and gave $700 for him as a pup.
And he's like, what, 4 or 5 months old, you said?
No, he was six months old. He might have been 7.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So he hadn't started him in the coon pen, and yeah. Did he go right on? I mean, did you start hunting him on the outside then? And
pretty much ever since then, I was hunting him and his sister. At the time, that was the only 2 dogs I had. I just sold a dog I had before, and that was all I had to hunt. So whenever I was hauling them, I had 2 10-month-old pups, 8, 9, 10-month-old pups. I'd drive 2 hours, just take them up there, and me and a couple buddies of mine would go up there and hunt them pups all night.
So now, living there in that same area, do you have to drive quite a ways to go coon hunting when you go?
I mean, I can hunt around here and tree a couple coons, but you can't really recast none. Either you get, you run into people's houses and stuff, or you get in places at the time you walk in there and back out, you ain't wanting to recut.
I got you. Yeah.
So pretty much about every time I go, 3 or 4 nights a week, usually about what I hunt. I try to always get 3, sometimes 4. But we normally drive about 2 hours every time we go.
Well, yeah, for years, my breed was a plot breed, and there was a plot breeder in a town called East McDowell, Kentucky, over in the mountains, Benny Moore. You probably never heard of him, JR, but back in the day, he ran a lot of stud dogs and all, but he always talked about having to go, over around, I guess he'd go over around Harrodsburg and back over in that country, and hunt. Those mountains is, that's what I grew up hunting, and it is rough, and you don't really have that opportunity like the guys in the flatlands do. But
no, they don't have a clue what we got what we got to go through down here.
Well, I'm sure that's true for sure. Well, I went back and looked at a scorecard on Willie when he won that UKC World Hunt, and I saw, he scored 3 coons that night, and just really dominated that cast. And there were some pretty good hounds in that cast, I know. And what, just briefly, do you remember anything special about that hunt, winning the UKC World Hunt with him?
Oh, it was definitely a feeling like no other. The whole time I was just kind of like, man, I'm just happy to make it this far. And then we'd win the next round. And I was like, you know what, I've done pretty good. This is my first time ever going. I've had a couple of dogs qualify, but this is my first time ever going to the zones or going to the World Hunt. And it was just like every round I was like, hey, if it's as far as we get, we've been blessed.
Well, that combination sure worked for you and so now, after winning the UKC World Hunt, now how much time went by before you won the AKC?
It was pretty much like, I think it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks later.
Yeah. Now, where was the AKC hunt held that year?
It was in northern Kentucky. It was actually in, I think it was in Williamstown.
Okay. All right. And your UKC win was up at Mount Gilead, Ohio, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those places all ring bells to me. We had the World Hunt there at Mount Gilead in 1988, and that was the only time a plot dog ever won the UKC World Hunt, and he won it that year, a dog called Sizzling Heat. But, that's good coon country up there.
Oh, yeah, that's great hunting.
Yeah. Well, what about that AKC hunt, just briefly? How did that go?
Buddy, it's been so long now, it's hard to remember.
Too much water under the bridge, I guess. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you don't have to give me a recap on it. I mean, that was just like the icing on the cake, I guess, after coming off a UKC win. That's just really unheard of.
Yeah, I think through that stretch, he'd won. We had it figured up, and I may be off just a little bit, but I want to think he'd won 16 or 17 casts in a row, from getting him qualified at the RQE to going to the World to coming back home. And I think that we had like 2 pro classics that we hunted in, and then followed right up behind it. We went on to the AKC World and won it.
Well, it's an amazing story there, and of course his record is well documented, and he's won all over just about anything that you could win. But how did Willie do his winning? What? Just describe him a little bit.
He was just 100 mile an hour. I mean, anytime you cut him loose, he was going to be treed somewhere, usually within 10 or 15 minutes. Now, however long it took you to walk to him, that was a different story. But he was just wide open, and he give you 100% every time.
Yeah, I know at one point there, Lane Denny made the decision to breed his world champion female to Willie, didn't he?
Yeah. And we got there'll be 2 this month, and I'm telling you, I got a little female right there. Well, me and my buddy Ellis Keene, we're partners on her, and I tell you, I think she's going to be something special.
Yeah. Well, you put a lot of black in there. Did those puppies turn out real dark? I mean, with a lot of color, or?
Yeah. They was pretty much about all. They was pretty much all blanket back with red legs. 2 of them kind of look like a black and tan, really, or what we used to call a high tan.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a little bit of white feet, and the rest of them it was red legs and solid black back.
Well, years ago, those Ozark Preacher dogs, I think John Wick was the one that kind of made them popular, Brinkley's Ozark Preacher dog. He was colored up that way. And, attractive dogs for sure, and a little different from what you see every day. But I always liked those blanket back dogs. And I noticed looking back on his pedigree, when you look back on Reason and then also on Page, you go back in the 3rd generation to Ball Stylish Hickory Nut Harry dog. So he's got that common ancestry, top and bottom, back there. And of course, Trackman's in there. And from what you've heard about any of those dogs, do you think he operates like anything in his pedigree, or?
Well, I couldn't really, I talked to C.J. Thomas and the way he described Reason, described Willie a lot, but I would say Willie was probably a replica of his mother. Now, whether it come from Trackman or Travis's side or both,
right?
But they was both. I mean, the same style.
Well, I've got a semen pup, a Trackman pup right now, that's 6 months old, and she's been a little bit of a late bloomer. She's not really excited about the prospects of being a coon hound so far, but she's extremely smart and really a beautiful hound. I think she'll be just fine, but we're not pushing her. We're just going to let her develop at her own pace. I have no aspirations of winning the world hunt. I'd have to get somebody else to handle her for me if I did. But at any rate, well, the Willie story is a great story in coon hunting, and he's obviously been really good to you. He's 8 years old now, about?
He'll be 8 next month.
I see. Okay. Well, I don't want to make him any older than he is.
yeah, we don't want to talk about that. He's just he's like my boy, right? It's hard to believe he's already 8.
Yeah. Well, that's the doggone thing about coon dogs, or any dog for that matter, is they just really don't live long enough. So we have to be, really enjoy them while we can, because the good Lord just lets us put them on loan to us for a little while. But well, so are you pretty happy with the way Willie's reproducing?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely can't complain. I think he's got roughly 55 to 60 Nite champions and Grand Nites. They've won roughly I'd say close to 350,000 now.
Wow.
I mean, and then we got, well, for one, I couldn't ask for. I got a better group of guys here as you do anywhere. I mean, 10 or 12 of us, and they all got behind Willie and got a pup, and they really won't hunt nothing else but something off of Willie.
Well, that's the secret. Don't mean to interrupt you, JR, but that's a secret, I think, to any successful campaign with a stud dog or breeding program, is having those pups hunted, and if you got somebody that's doing that, man, that goes a long way in proving what your stud dog can do.
Yeah, I mean that's what it takes. I mean, Tony Bowman up there, I've hunted with him for, I guess, roughly, I'd say 10, 11 years now. And, he's just like a brother to me. Opened up all of his hunting places. I mean, I couldn't thank this guy enough. I mean, he's top of the line. And, once he got up, we got these pups a little bit older. And Willie's got, he's got roughly 1,100 pups now. And I think I checked, maybe, I guess it's been close to a month ago. Really only, like, I would say 560 to 600 of them is under a year old.
Wow. Yeah.
And,
well, you got a lot, obviously there will be a lot of them that turn out well and all. And comparatively speaking, everybody in the coonhound world remembers Sackett Jr., or at least heard of him. There was a time that you basically could not go into the pages of American Cooner magazine and turn a page without seeing a Grand Nite champion sired by him. And just was really, but he only sired, I believe it was 1,700 pups before he was killed on the highway when he was about 7 years old. Now, if Willie keeps going, he'll have that many pups, I'm sure.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah, for sure. And well, that's great. That's great. Well, the reason why, and I don't know, I didn't have a podcast back when Willie was making all that noise, back in 2018 and all. I've been doing this now for about 3 years, coming up on 3 years, I think, this month. But I I did want to talk to you about this little win that you had here a couple weeks ago up there in Greencastle, Indiana. You did win the UKC Tournament of Champions. They upped the entry this year, and I think there was 6 dogs that went to the final.
96 dogs is what they took to the final.
Mm-hmm. Out of the zones or regions, they called them. And when all the smoke cleared on Sunday morning, there was one dog that took home a check for $50,000. Do you ever imagine that you could have won $50,000 in a coon hunt?
No, it's pretty unbelievable. You know, UKC is stepping their game up every year, and I think I can't imagine in 10 years what it's going to be like.
Well, for sure, and I think this whole program was a brilliant idea for them, and there's always detractors. People say, well, but I think it came along for UKC at a time that they needed it. They're catching some bad press right now over their service, and I think that's a lot more the fault of the Postal Department than it is UKC. But they've done a great job of coming up with this idea of winning 5 casts and making your dog a champion and then qualifying for this Tournament of Champions. I want to talk to you about this dog. You call him Willy's Connor McGregor. Now, I had to look that up because I'm not an Ultimate Fighting Championship kind of guy. But I had heard the name just kind of thrown around. But how'd you come up with the name for your dog?
Well, to be honest with you, I never even come up with the name. Levi Stevenson was the one named him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We went up there, and Nick actually brought a female down named Izzy, she won the 2018 PKC World. Well,
Yep.
Right before she got to have pups, she had cancer or something. I'm not really for sure, but she ended up dying like a week early before we could take the pups from her. So we go up and pleasure hunt with Nick, and I think he took a pretty good liking to Willie. So when Abby come in and he Izzy's sister, he sent her down and we got her bred. Well, Nick picked the pup out that looked just like Willie, and then I get the white pup that looks like Abby.
Okay, so that's how you came up with him then. What and what's the background on his dam, his mother?
Abby, I think she's a platinum champion, owned by Nick Emmel.
Right, up in Indiana, right?
Yeah, right. And Nick, I think he owned Track Rat, and he also owned her mommy as well. So he's had real good success. He's got a female, a half mate to Conor, which is named Gabby. I think she's won the Indiana State Hunt. She's I don't know, she's probably won $10,000 or $15,000, maybe $20,000 now, and she's only just a 3-year-old herself.
Wow, that's amazing, impressive for sure. Well, explain. Let's see. Let's go back. All right, Conor as a pup. How did he look early on?
Well, I had another pup I was hunting named Mac, and Mac pretty much when he got up about 2 years old, he kind of had a blow up, and everybody's like, just lay the dog up. And every dog that I've ever started, I've never bought a dog. I've always had one from 6 weeks old, 6 months old, and raise and train them. And I can say Willie done the same thing. And I had a dog before that named Bo, and Bo done the same thing as well. You go from treeing a lot of coons with them to, you're like, well, can this dog tree a coon?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like I always call them terrible twos. Well, Mac hit them terrible twos, and Conor was about 10 months old, and I'd never mess with him. And I take him over. There's a guy named Jason Bullock here. He lives about 30 minutes from me. He's got a starting pen. And I take him over to the starting pen, and I said, as soon as this dog starts treeing, you call me, I'll come get him, whether it's a week or a month. I said, I don't want him to sit in here and lose his mouth because, he's got a pretty good mouth. Well, he called me. I guess it's about 5 or 6 days later. He called me. He said, hey, you're going to come get this dog. He's been treated all night. And I go over there. Well, the next weekend, we leave and go to Ohio, and here I go to Ohio with a 10-month-old pup, take him up there, and the first weekend that he ever gets put out in the wild in the woods, we go up there and he trees 2 singles. And I'm just walking on there, on the way back home. I'm fired up. This pup, taking 2 weeks ago, he didn't know what a coon was. And now I've already, he's treed 2 coons, and we bring him back home, and I pretty much just start hunting him by himself. And it's just like he knows what he was doing the whole time.
Well, you know how things just happen for a reason, JR. And we don't always know what those reasons are. But here you got a really standout dog in Willy, proven to the world in 2 world championships and everything else, that top 16 at Autumn Oaks and all that goes with it. And then he's getting into kind of, you're breeding him and that you're finding out that what he reproduces is his greatest value to you. And then along comes this young dog. And now that's the way it's supposed to work. It doesn't always work that way. And you certainly have been blessed. And I think there got to be some credit that goes to the way that you handle a dog and the way that you spend time with the dog. And I want to jump into that just a little bit, and then I want to get back to talking about Conor and what he's achieved. What's your approach to puppies from the time what age do you like to get them to start with?
Well, I'll take them out there, and I like to let them, if you get a chance in the evening times when you get home or something, take them out, let them run loose a little while, or if you got, like over at my uncle's, we have about a 5-acre, 4-acre rabbit pen, and just let them run loose. Just let them, if they start messing with rabbits or messing with squirrels or whatever, just kind of let them, be a pup. Yeah. And then, once they get started a little bit, I just kind of, if we go up to Frankfurt or wherever we go hunting, I'll go up there and everybody will be turning their dogs loose left, and I'll be over here walking this pup down the creek, just hoping, we can come across a coon.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. So you're encouraging that independence from the time they're young.
Yeah. I mean, they got, and the pups that, like I said, the pups that I've had off Willy, normally, some people, they'll even call me and say, man, this pup here, it'll run in tree, but it won't pay attention. My old dog, they're kind of hard to train. Like, mine will be in here treating. It'll be off over there by itself doing its own thing. I said, well, you want to sell that pup since there's something wrong?
Exactly. Well, JR, we've gone through that kind of sequence with dogs. Back when I was a kid and we were training dogs and young dogs and so forth, people didn't get too excited about a pup until he's 2 years old. And you wanted the pup to stay with the old dogs because there weren't many coon and it was hard country to hunt and if the pup's over here in this hollow, fooling around, and it's that one coon that old dog struck tree might be the only coon you tree that week, let alone that night. And so you kind of wanted the dogs to stay with, or young dogs to stay with the older dogs. But that has changed dramatically, and I think in the breeding of the dogs, they just tend to be more independent now. And that's a product of breeding, independence to independence, I think. I don't think there's anything environmental, really, that would influence a pup to be more independent. But it's just a different world now, a different ball game. But
yeah, I had to agree. From the pups and the dogs that I can remember when I was young, growing up to now. I mean, the dogs I had up until till we hunted Paige and pretty much we started hunting Willy. Well, now if I had to go back and hunt them, I'd just quit. And at the time, I thought, hey, we was tickled death. Hey, we treat a coon tonight, or we treat one, we treat 5 this week or something. Used to, we'd get fired up over that. Now we're up there. If we go up there and hunt, we treat 5 or 6 singles. We're like, well, we've had a bad hunt.
Oh yeah, it's hard. When you're an old guy like me, you don't want to get into that vein of saying, "Oh, everything was better back in the good old days," or you boys don't know what you're doing. You ought to do it like I do it. No, I don't want to be that guy at all. but guys really don't understand how much more plentiful game is nowadays. Even in some of those areas in West Virginia where I hunted, where coon were extremely scarce, and we had to stock them. We had to order them out of Texas, or we tried Florida coons. They didn't work very well. But at any rate, now, all those areas, all those hollows and all got coons in them. So it has changed quite a bit there. So basically, you just try to encourage them to be their own dog, and once they start treeing, do you, with all those guys that you hunt with, do you get an opportunity to hunt the pup by himself very much?
I mean, yeah, you do. I mean, they're going by always. I mean, every time we go hunting, there's a crowd. Normally, there's 3, 4, 5 of us. We'll all have a dog apiece, and we just get out there and cut them loose. It's just like a competition hunt every time.
I got you.
But, they'll be scattered all over the place, and normally we'll have somebody to stay in the truck. And then it's just kind of like the bus driver or Uber driver, I guess you'd say. You go your
That's
way
me.
and I'll be mine. And we just keep recasting and
get
around to the road, call somebody, hey, drive around here and get us. And, that's just how we hunt.
Well, that's great. And it's great to have that kind of a group like that you can enjoy hunting with. I know a lot of times I hunted by myself in Michigan for 2 reasons. One, especially back in the days when fur was high, I wanted to get out there and skin some coons. And also, if I had a young dog, I enjoyed watching them develop on their own. But when it comes down to it, it's a lot more fun, when my buddies from Virginia would come up and hunt a week with me, or my friends from Indiana would come up and hunt quite often and all. It's just, I think coon hunting is meant to be hound hunting, period, dating back to the old foxhound days years ago. There in your state of Kentucky was always a kind of a group affair, where guys like to get together and all. And I hope we don't lose sight of that, that aspect of it.
If it was left up to me to go out here and turn a dog loose by myself, I mean, I love to coon hunt, but if I can't get out there and enjoy it with my buddies, I wouldn't do it. I mean, that's just, now we can go out here and we're all hunting, and I may not see you half the night. I may be walking through her, going to my dog, or 2 of us to go to this dog and these couple dogs. But as far as just me getting out and going by myself, I mean, I ain't afraid of the dark, but that just don't seem like it'd be any fun to me.
Yeah. And I would say to anybody that's listening to this is saying, well, you got to hunt by yourself to have a coon dog. Well, I'd have to ask that guy, how many world champions do you have in your backyard, But
everybody's got their own opinion. But I mean, you're going to, if you like the competition hunt, and that's pretty much, I enjoy it and I love it now. But I mean, these dogs, everybody's like, well, you got to hunt these dogs by themselves. I mean, realistically, I would say, as far as Conor being in the box by himself, I know he may get cut loose once or twice when he was a pup. But as far as me just hunting him by himself, I'd say the dog ain't been hunting by himself in a year. He's only 2 years old.
That's really pretty amazing right there. And, I want to talk to you about Conor. I know that I promised you that we wouldn't go all night with this podcast, although I think we could. And I hope that I can get a little bit of a promise out of you that you'll come back. All right, let's talk about Conor and about this Tournament of Champions and about how you came to be $50,000 richer. Where did you hunt him in the region? How did that all go by? Or what? Let's back up just a little bit. At what point did you decide you were going to hunt him in the Tournament of Champions?
Well, I guess it would have been the last year whenever I got my 5 cast wins. Because to me, and I'm not saying it because I want it, but to me, the Tournament of Champions is, that's the hunt of all hunts. And the reason I say it is no matter if you got $1 million there backing you, or you ain't got enough money, you're on a fixed income and you draw $841 a month. Anybody can afford to go to it. So anybody that's got a dog has a chance to win it. It's not, well, you got to spend all this money because you don't. I mean, I think it was a $150 entry fee for a chance at, $50,000. So everybody has a chance. And so I take Conor and sign him up, and we go over to the Lancaster zone, which is about an hour from me. Well, I got it out of Lancaster, and I got some good buddies up north, John Perkins and Justin Burke, and they have absolutely some of the best hunting you'll ever be in. It's hilly, it's not flat, but it's just good hunting, safe hunting. You don't really have to worry about nobody. Yeah. And they take care of me, and they let me guide cast right behind their house. Well, last year I took a dog named Willy B, and I guided him in there last year. I doubled him up and took him to the TOC the top 64. We got beat out up there the first round, and then this year I got it both cast back, and then we won both cast. We won both cast again in the same place.
Well, that having a good place to go, that means a lot. And I know down through the years in working on the other side of the desk at all major hunts, virtually all the major hunts at that time, you always want to put the cast with a guide, and if possible with a coon hunter. We always like to have those hunting guides if possible, because they're going to put the casting coon for the simple reason that they want to win that cast as much as the other three. So having a good place to go certainly makes a difference. Well, how did he look up there?
Okay, so the first night we go up there, a red bone trees a coon. Actually done a great job. He's probably a half a mile in there treed in 4 or 5 minutes with a coon. Well, Conor was setting a mile tree, but I never could hear him. So these other two guys, we go in there and score that guy. He's got 75 and 100 on a coon. Well, these other two guys strike and tree their dogs. They end up moving, taking some minus. Well, it gets down. We go down here and run the 8. Well, the 8 catch them. We walk top of the hill. When we get on top of the hill, you can barely hear Conor through the country sitting. Well, I strike and tree Conor 100, 100 and quarter. Time we get to him, there's only about 15 minutes left in the hunt. Well, we go score another tree, and by the time it's all said and done, we're up here next to the road. There's only 6 or 7 minutes left, and we end up, we cut back loose. Nobody ends up making a tree or whatever, and that's pretty much how the first night went. Well, the second night, we get out there and cut them loose, and the one boy's black and tan dog goes down here. He's got a first and first. We get down there. He don't have nothing. He takes a minus. Well, he withdraws. Another boy's dog is I'm not sure. He's pretty much blowed out. Well, my dog's sitting 8/10 down a creek tree. We go to him, he's on a den. Well, when we get to mine, there's another boy's dog sitting in here treed. We go to him, he's got a coon. Well, the other guy in the cast, his dog has been struck for longer than an hour. So that opens up the strike in UKC back to 100. So when Conor strikes back in, the other dog's back loose. I go in for 100, 100 and a quarter. We go to him. He's got a coon. Well, we get him off of that. I'd say there's roughly 20 minutes left at this time. Well, that guy's dog that treed the first coon gets treed again. Well, when his dog gets treed as we're walking to start the 8, by that time there's 9 minutes left. I recut Conor because if this guy's got a coon, he's going to beat me. So when I recut Conor with 9 minutes left, he goes 900 yards. And right before we get to that guy's tree, Conor loads up tree sitting in there. And as soon as we see that guy's got a coon, I had to tree Conor with 3 minutes to go. We go to Conor. Conor's got another coon. And the hunt's over.
Down to the wire.
Yeah, it was a great hunt. We had we had good guys both rounds. Had a good time. It was definitely a great experience.
Yeah. So you got cast wins both nights at the region then with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
First
good.
night I had 225, and the second night, I had 225 and 70. I had 400.
Yeah. That's good, solid scores. All right. So what was it? A week or 2 weeks in between the 3?
So we leave the Tournament of Champions, and the next week we go to the Super Stakes, and I ended up getting him in the final 6 of the of the junior super stakes.
So he gets in the final 6 in the junior.
The 2-year-olds.
Yeah. What did that pay you?
I think it paid $800, and we come back home, and where I just had this newborn.
You said $2,800, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if I'd have won that cast, if I would have won that cast, that would have put me at, I think, $7,000 is what it paid the last place, or $6,000. I ain't really sure, to be honest with you.
Well, so you didn't really take any time off between the regions and the finals.
No, the regions was I think the first and second, or second and third, and then
right.
I turned around, took off Sunday and Monday, and I left for the super stakes on Tuesday.
You don't let any grass grow under the wheels of that truck, right?
No, that's for sure. We try to, if we got a dog, we try to make it. I like going to the tournament champions, the super stakes, and then I'll hunt a couple local hunts, and then we'll go. We try to go to Autumn Oaks every year, and then we'll try to get a dog qualified and try to make a run at the UKC World, and then if I got a fall dog, I'll be at the fall super stakes, and then I hunt the PKC World.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty full calendar right there, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's about 6 hunts. You know, we go to the Winter Classic, then the Spring Super Stakes, and the TOC. That's 3, and then you got Autumn Oaks, the Fall World, or the Fall Super Stakes, if we got one, and then the UKC World, and then the PKC World.
That's about 7 hunts altogether there, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the finals and talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to let you go.
All right. So the finals, the first night, we cut the dogs loose. This boy's blue dog does a nice job. He's got 225 on a coon. We go to the slim dog. He's on a den, and then Conor gets split in between them, and Conor's got a coon, which gives me I want to think I got 150 or I think I got 175 or 200 on it. I can't exactly remember.
Right.
We recast him. The blue dog and Slim's right-handed. Well, Conor goes left-handed, the opposite direction. He gets in there and starts locating around, and he just sounds to me like, and looking at him on the Garmin, it looks like he's trying to win tree. So I'm kind of letting him settle in. They put the stationary on me. Well, the slim dog comes in and covers him, and as soon as he does, I tree Conor. Well, they're treed for probably, I'd say, 5 or 6 minutes together, and then Conor just rolls out. Well, we end up walking in there. Conor had a coon. I don't really know why he left. We never heard him or heard anything get rough. But anyways, so we get that dog off the tree. Conor's treed again. We go to Conor. Conor's got another coon. Well, by that time, Slim is retreed. We go to Slim. Slim has a coon. And then once we get Slim off the tree, Conor's setting .82 in somebody's yard tree. So I tell the judge, and I'm like, hey, we need to get out here this road and walk this road straight down. And once we get to Conor's tree again, he's getting his third coon. So at that time, I think there's roughly about 30 minutes left. We had to walk back to the last place we heard the Stony dog, which he was struck for a quarter, and or he may have been struck for 50. Anyways, he withdraws. I think there's 27 minutes left. We recut the dogs, and Slim and the blue dog goes left, and Conor just kind of blows out straight in front of us. Well, so when Slim gets treed, that kind of puts pressure on me. I need to get treed. Well, Conor comes treed with probably 9 minutes to go. He puts a stationary on Slim. He treats Slim, so as soon as he treats Slim, I treat Conor. And the guy gets the blue dog treat in. They go score Slim. That puts Slim in having a coon. So once we get to Conor, if Conor don't have a coon, Slim wins the cast. Well, we get to Conor. Conor's got his 4 single, and the hunt's over on the early round.
Coon treer for sure. Yeah.
So
hey, let me ask you real quick. Has he got that big mouth that you like?
Oh yeah, he's got it for the most part. I think the people hunting with him, if anything, you can ask them. They was like, man, that dog, they couldn't believe when I treated him in at the end of the hunt. He was 8 tenths. They was like, he just sounded like he's like 400 yards.
Okay, well, go ahead with your story.
So the late round, I draw a flop. The guy you was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
And that's one of the guys that I wouldn't want to draw just because he's one of my buddies, and it sucks that if anything I was wanting to draw him maybe in the finals. So we get out there, we cut the dogs loose. This guy's dog does a nice job. He's got 200 on a coon. He recuts his dog. We go to Conor. Conor's got a coon. I think I struck for 50, so that put me at 175. And then we recut them. Conor gets treed again. No other dogs got treed yet. We go to Conor. Conor's got another coon. So I think that put me at a quarter, or 150 and 175. That put me at 325. Well, we get him off of that. This one guy's dog's treed. We go to him. His dog's slick. He takes a minus. Well, that time, Conor's retreed again. Well, we go to Conor. Conor's got another coon. We haven't heard nothing out of the Bugs dog, and we haven't heard nothing out of Nitro. Well, by that time, I think there's roughly 45 minutes left in the cast. And time we walk back to the last place we heard Bugs, because, we had to keep following Conor. We get back out there, start the 8 Bugs withdrawals. Well, we had to cut back loose. When we cut back loose, there were roughly about 30 minutes left, I think. And Flop, he hears Nitro. He strikes and trees Nitro. And we go to him, and Nitro's got a coon. Well, Conor's retreat again, but I don't have to tree him. This other guy, he trees his dog, so I don't have to tree him. And by that time, I don't think there's enough time to put the stationary on one anyway. Mm-hmm. Which at that time it wouldn't have mattered. If we'd have walked in there, and if he was slick, I still won the cast.
Yeah.
So while we walk in there to Conor, the hunt's over with. Conor has another coon, but we didn't score yet. And then that brings us up to Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, Saturday night.
Okay, let's stop real quick right here.
Okay.
What about that hunt? What about the way it's organized? What about the place they have it? All that. What was your impression about it? Well, of course, you've been there 2 years now.
If I had to say, if you was ever going to take anyone and try to get them into coon hunting, that would be the hunt to take them to.
Yeah.
It would definitely spoil them. I mean, they got, a nice venue. They make you, they make you feel, they make you feel like, you've done something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can't say enough about Alan and Trevor and that whole crew, that whole effort there at UKC that they're doing with the Tournament Champions. I got to witness it firsthand last year, and from the inside out, and really can't say enough good about it. And I just wanted to know, kind of what you thought about it. Okay, let's go into the final night then.
All right, so Saturday night, I draw Nick Emma with Gabby. And so that put a half-brother and half-sister drawing each other. They both had the same mommy, but they got different dads. So we get out there, we cut them loose. The dogs kind of go back right-handed toward the road. Well, Nick's dog gets treed. She throws a couple locates, and the dogs are close. He trees her. Well, she moves on. Well, her and Connor's both kind of going the same direction back toward the road. So we run up there to the road and get in the road just in case one of them pops out. Well, Gabby, she shoots across the road. Well, Conor goes back around and goes down the field edge, then pops in there and gets treed. Well, we go to Conor. Conor's got a coon. We get out in the field, recut him. Gabby, she barks. We recut Conor. Well, Nick trees Gabby. I'd say she has to be well over a mile. And, it's just a 90-minute cast. So we go to Gabby. She's got a coon. And by that time, Conor's setting tree, but I ain't really, we're almost at that. I think we got up to 1.8 miles from him, almost 2 miles as the crow flies from him. The time we walked back, and I had to treat Conor in, there's only 36, 37 minutes left, and he's done been treed. He's done been treed on his second coon for roughly, I'd say 35 minutes or longer. So we go score him, and we're looking at the tree when we first walk in there. I'm like, man, this don't look good. And I walk around, I look, and literally the trees are about 4 foot apart. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The coon is sitting in the tree, the other tree. Well, I look up there, and just so happened, Conor's tree, there was a big limb that went from Conor's tree into right where the coon was laying at. I mean, no question about it, a grizzly bear could have crossed over. But I was just thinking, I thought, man, that's a tough break right there to be that close. and then we got him off of that, recut him. I'm not sure. I don't think Gabby, she got treed again, and there was only roughly about 10 or 11 minutes left. That time we got him and scored him and all that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So then that was the early round in Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, you just had the head-to-head round. And
yeah, and that was only a 90-minute cast.
Yeah, and now you're in the final.
And then, so the final round, we cut loose, and Conor opens up. Well, I strike Conor, and then Joe strikes Dom. Well, the wind was blowing terrible. Well, the judge didn't hear me. There was two other guys standing behind me. They both heard me, but the judge didn't hear me. So we kind of had, a question about that. Well, as soon as Conor dies treat, I tree him. Then Joe trees Dom right behind me. We go down there. They got a coon. Well, Piper's sitting probably 150 yards split from him. She has a coon. Once we get Piper off the tree, I'd say it's probably only a couple minutes. Conor's retreat again. We go to Conor. He's got another coon. So we get Conor off that tree, recut, and we're walking back down there trying to hear where the last place Piper was at. We get back down there. Dom's treed probably 8/10 through the country. Well, we go to Dom, and he caught a terrible break. We go in there, and his dog is up a stump, or just a little, probably about 8 foot tall. And there's a coon sitting probably 10 or 15 foot right behind him, just up a bush. Knowing the dog probably wind treated him or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
And how these hunts go. You got good breaks and bad breaks.
Right.
That was just a bad break for him. So we get him off of that. We walk back a little bit to where we heard Piper. Well, Conor gets treated about 400 or 500 yards across the river. So we go over to Conor, and at that time, we had to get wet. That river gets pretty deep. But we get over to Conor, and Conor's on a den tree, and then the tree his tree lays into is also a den. So we squall. We can't never really get nothing to come out or nothing to look. So by that time we come back, I think there's roughly 45, 50 minutes left in the hunt. Well, Dom is treed in that time. He trees Dom. We go to Dom. Dom's got a coon. Well, I'm sitting at 475 plus, and at this time Dom's got 50 minus, and Piper's only got 175 plus. So realistically, they're gonna have to. Both of them's gonna have to treat at least 2 coons to beat me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave mine on a leash. He's almost at this point. I know. They can always look better, but it's at this time. He's made 14 trees up here this weekend, and he's made 15 trees, and he's had 14 coons. So at that time, we walk back out of the field, and we get down there. I think when we had to recut after the 8 catches Piper, there's about roughly 10 or 11 minutes left. Well, Dom just flies down there and gets treed. We go down there, his on his den. Well, Conor's sitting. At that time, he's sitting about 700 yards. I hear him open up, working a track, and right there at the end of the hunt, he gets treed. Well, I don't have to tree him. And after the hunt's over, I walk in there to him, and he has another coon.
That you didn't have to score.
That I didn't have to score, yeah.
And that's a smart move, because why gamble, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't no need to. Now for granted, both of them, Piper, she ended up taking 75 minus, so that put her at 100 plus, and that put Dom at 100 plus. So really, if I would have gambled and took a minus, I still would have won, but there's no reason to. That
Exactly.
I guess, you never know, a dog could trip possum and get scratched.
Sure.
For all that goes, so they wouldn't no needing to.
Right. Well, that's pretty great. Well, now at that point, then it kind of sinks in that your bank account's taking a pretty good boost. Well,
just be honest with you, and people's going to, be like, oh, he's crazy or he's just full of it. But really, that win and that title, that was just as good as any money would ever be. That money comes and goes, but just to know that, hey, Conor won the Tournament of Champions in 22, that means a lot to me.
Well, you hit it on the head there, JR, and I don't think anybody that's not involved in the sport would understand that. But I said many, many years ago that if I had a motto, it's recognition is the name of the game. Just getting our dog recognized for what he's able to do and able to accomplish is really more important than the money.
Yeah, and I mean, like for example, with Willy, I won the UKC World Hunt. All right, the next year it paid $10,000, and everybody's like, "Man, that sucks." And I'm like, "No, it really don't." Just to say we won a World Hunt together. Sure. That was the main thing. I mean, that's.
Well, look at the dogs that you joined on that list. When I was at UKC, we had a perpetual trophy that sat in the lobby of the office. And on that trophy, it had a little plaque on there for every dog that won the UKC World Championship. And I don't know if they still have that or not. But to have your name alongside the Beaver Lake Magic, the Hillbilly Hillbilly Mac and all of those dogs down through the years that won that hunt, ever since 1978 is an honor and something that most coon hunters will never achieve. And so I get it. I get what you're saying. Well, it's great that you won the Tournament of Champions with a young dog out of your stud dog. And so what's the plans for the future?
We're just hopefully, we're going to keep pegging along, and hopefully we got a few more good wins left in the tank. And, we'll just see how it goes.
Well, have you bred Conor yet?
No, I'm not going to. Willy's taught me a lot about the coon hunting world, and I tell you, it's awesome owning a stud dog, but I tell you, I enjoyed Willy way more hunting than I did breeding. Or breeding now.
Well, that's when the work starts. Is when you make one and the public gets wind of it, and that's when the phone starts ringing, and that's when your wife probably wonders what happened to her husband.
Yeah, I mean, people, everybody wants a stud dog, and it's a blessing. It's an awesome experience. But I think, you kind of get to where, you're like, I enjoy coon hunting a whole lot more than just breeding dogs.
Well, you're a coon hunter. That comes through, JR. You've got a great background. You've got a great support group there, not only your family, but your friends in that area. You got a beautiful wife and a new baby now. How much better can life be, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and like I said, the main thing is, I mean, I got, and I'll say it, and I'll tell everybody this, I mean, Willy or me or anybody, I mean, I got some of the best friends as far as in hunting you could ever meet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main thing. I mean, like I got, I hunt, this is just say like a weekly basis. I hunt with Tony Bowman, Micah Ayers, Ellis King, Casey Maggard, Kevin Gay, Ben Hale. There's a lot of us that gets out. Zach Norris and Kendall Norris, they're always, Micah always makes a joke. He's like, well, if the bus ain't full, I'd like to go with you tonight. And anybody that ever calls me, I'm like, hey, I ain't never told anyone yet, hey, we ain't got no room. I just always say, well, we got 4 or 5 going, but we'll make something happen. We'll make room. It's all about the fun anyways. You start getting too serious about it, and you have bad nights, and it seems like every time you plan for one thing to go one way, it'll blow up in your face, and you'll go another. Mm-hmm. So,
well, in my experience over the years, I've met all kinds of coon hunters, and I've experienced all kinds of different attitudes with coon hunters. And I'd say that your attitude and the way you're approaching the sport is the right way. And if you're a young hunter out there listening to this podcast, you can learn a lot just by listening to JR here and his attitude toward the sport. And JR, it's been great to spend this time with you. We have spent about an hour and 20 minutes now, which I promised you we'd wrap it up at about an hour. But I'll just have to owe you for that extra 20. And
oh, that ain't no problem.
And I do deeply appreciate you coming on the Gone to the Dogs podcast. You're a class act. You've really given us a good hour and 20 minutes here of entertainment and go ahead.
I was going to tell you too. I got to throw this in there. I got to give some shout outs to some boys, Eric Emery and Stephen Emery, Adam Trusty. Well, not only with Conor right here, I met them boys about, I guess, close to 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll tell you another thing I think it helps these dogs is, it makes it nice when you got somebody like them guys up there. Last year in May, I sent Conor up there to Eric to hunt. So pretty much, Conor gets to hunt down here in these hills and hollers, kind of figure things out. We sent them up north to Eric and Trusty and Steven right there, and they hunt them for probably 2 or 3 months out of the year for us.
Yeah.
Gives a dog, take a dog that ain't never got the opportunity up there. Well, when you go to the spring, go to Greencastle, you go up there to the spring super stakes or the autumn oaks or the world hunt, it's different for them dogs. I mean, it really is. And I had to throw them in there. And I want to thank, Kevin Cook and Braden Jones and Wade that they're up there in Greencastle and Cody Carter, going back again. That's where, I guess the biggest thing is, like I said, going back is you find these friends, and Kevin and them, they opened up their homes, and him and Tenderfoot, and they took us, pleasure hunting, give us a place to keep our dogs and stuff like that, man. That goes a long way. And that to me, that's the main thing about these hunting, you meet so many good people. You'll have a few bad eggs, but for the most part, I mean, you meet some great people and people that you would never knew. These dogs, you can't believe where they take you.
Well, that's for sure, and I can testify to that, JR. And I think a lot of the you can always judge a guy by the company he keeps and by his friends, and I know that those guys would say the same thing about you, my friend. It goes both ways, and well, I certainly want to wish you nothing but success going forward. And that you, Conor, will exceed your expectations as a competition dog, and then maybe someday down the road you may decide to stud him out the way you have Willy. But it's been a great visit with you, and thank your wife for sharing you here. I know that you're usually out hunting all that you can and that sort of thing. And this evening, it's really been great to talk with you, JR. Wish you nothing but success going down the road. It's the time of our podcast that I usually call up my old buddy over in the hills of Pennsylvania, the 85-year-old coon hunter, Fred Moran. We'll be speaking to Fred in just a moment. But, JR, I want to thank you once again. I wish you nothing but the best.
All right, man. I appreciate it. It was good talking to you. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad you did, and it's very enjoyable for me, too, and we'll do it again, okay?
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
You too. Well, how you doing, Fred?
Oh, pretty good, Steve. Wore out, that's all. Too much hunting, not enough sleep. But I'll give it a good try again tonight, because we're supposed to get a lot of rain tomorrow.
Well, have you had a lot of rain up your way?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I hunted in the woods 2 nights ago, and it was supposed to storm late, but we quit right just as it started. I went back, that was 2 nights ago, or 3, and I went back in the same woods last night because I wanted to see something there. And man, we're lucky we got out, because on the gas line there was about 3 trees, at least telephone pole size, that the wind blew down overnight. And really, if they would have hit someone, they wouldn't be there tomorrow. But
well, I saw that you
it looked okay.
Yeah, well, I saw that you were having some bad weather up that way. I had to call or text my buddy Randy Smith up there. I don't know, how far is he from you? He's there north of Pittsburgh in Katanning.
Yeah, that's where Randy lives.
Yeah. How far is that from you?
Oh, about 40 miles.
I got you. Okay. Well, I knew you guys
He's
were.
got some good hunting. If you go north of his place, a little north west, that's some of the best hunting in Pennsylvania. It's all level, a lot of coon,
Yeah.
and 99% of the farmers up there want you to get them all.
Yeah.
They're a nuisance up there.
Yeah. I enjoy hunting up there with him. I go up a couple times a year.
Did he ever
usually.
mention a town named Slippery Rock?
I've heard of Slippery Rock, but isn't that where
There's
the
a
college is?
college.
Yeah.
Yep.
Penn State, right?
Yeah, no, not Penn State,
No?
but Slippery Rock
Slippery Rock
College.
College. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there's another one,
Yeah.
Grove City.
Right.
But that's some of the finest coon hunting in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be telling that. Everybody.
That's right. You'll have to get an appointment if you want to
Well,
go.
that's one of the few places you can go in Pennsylvania and run into somebody coon hunting. Most of the time, you never run into anybody, but
Yeah.
you will up there.
Yeah.
They come from Ohio and everywhere else.
I got you. Yeah.
Like I say, it's some terrific hunting. And just about anywhere up that way, it's a lot better. Mostly because it's level, like Ohio, parts
Yeah.
of Ohio, Indiana, they're good hunt. People always ask me, what's the best place I ever coon hunted? And I've been in probably every state but about 10, and plus Canada. Omitting Canada, I always thought the best coon hunting for most coon and pretty easy hunting in comparison was Michigan first and Iowa second. In Iowa, one time, me and John Chilser, when he was living, we were hunting out there. This was a good 40 years ago. I think we saw, I don't remember exactly right now, 21 or 22 coon in 2.5 hours. And now, a lot of trees had, doubles, triples, stuff, but that's still a lot of coon, no matter which way you look at it.
Do you
Michigan,
remember where you were hunting out there, or
yeah. I hunted with a guy that he's well known. No, I can't think his name now. He had a red dog. He used to advertise Spoon River Andy. I'd know his name right away if I heard it. He lived in Iowa, but just over the Missouri line. This was north of Kirksville, Missouri, but in Iowa. And a guy came here and bred a female to my old magic dog from Iowa years ago. And we were out there at a redbone hunt at Kirksville. And we went up with them one night, just went coon hunting. And that's how we saw all them coon. I know the guy's name that had the Andy dog. That's a shame. I can remember the dog and I can't remember him. But he was well known back in, I say that was in the 60s.
Yes,
67.
yeah. And then I do remember that dog very well, Fred, because some fellows there in southern West Virginia ended up buying that dog and bringing him down there, a guy named Kenneth Harper and a guy named Chick Scarborough.
I knew Chick. I bought a dog off him.
Okay. Chick had the Blakesley's Northern Chief dog at one time.
He used to advertise it occasionally at Stud.
Yes. Yeah. Well, those guys were right there in my hometown. So we had, as you mentioned, red dogs. I remember Bruce's Big John. They bought him and brought him in there. They had Spoon River Andy. They had Blakesley's Northern Chief. They also had Tucker's Ruby female. And she was a really nice
red
dog.
Dogs as good as them blood dogs.
Well, you know what? People down through the years have kind of said, man, how do you know about all this? I said, well, when you're a fanatic about coon hunting and you grow up with it and you read everything you can get your hands on about.
You're right. I used to read them. First book I ever got was A Fool Cry. Me and a couple buddies was riding around. We were about 16, and we were riding around, and we spotted a black and tan coon dog in the yard. This is about 50 miles away from where our coon club is at the present time, up in Laurelville. And I said to the guy, stop, stop. I said, let's talk to that guy. We talked to him, and he told us all about his dog and so forth. And he gave me a full cry. And I never even heard of it before. Man, I read that thing 32 times. And I found out where to get it. Naturally, it was inside, and I've got the American Cooner shortly thereafter. But that was my first introduction to find out there's other people besides me that got coon dogs.
Yeah, that's
and,
right. That was our lifeline.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that was our lifeline to the whole country right there in the pages of that magazine.
And I got to meet Mrs. Walker in person. She was a good person.
Absolutely.
And like I say, she was a friend to every cooner. And then that same guy, I believe it was him, he gave me some old full cries that were, I believe it was 1943. Roy Rogers was in there coon hunting.
Yeah.
And it showed him and his buddies, all the ones you see in the movies. And I, about 2 years ago, when I sold my house and moved, I had all them magazines. And I put a little ad in one of the magazines, and I says, about 150 magazines. I know I give this guy, a guy in Pennsylvania came down and got them all. I know he took over 350 home, every bit of that. I didn't realize I had that many.
Yeah.
And
well, those are great just to go through. I've got some old ones here myself.
I used to pull one out every once in a while, so far back. Packy, when he was sick, I don't know if you knew it or not, my wife took care of him for about 6 months. We had the downstairs built into a game room. When coon hunters came, they had a own shower and everything else downstairs. Well, Packy stayed there. I'll bet he read every magazine I had. He'd get up in the morning and read till dark and read all them magazines.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love them. I think at one time I was keeping every copy of Coonhound Bloodlines that I had written an article in, which was basically all of them, all the years that I was at UKC. And I still have those magazines in storage. I need to do something with them. That becomes, when we get to our age, Fred, we have to start thinking about what we want to do with this stuff, that we've been accumulating all
the thing.
Years.
When I moved from my home that I built that home, I didn't. I had builders build it, but I paid for it. Anyhow, my home was 35 years old when I moved out of it. And what I was going to say, there was so much stuff that I had that I didn't realize I had. And I'm still at that place. I got stuff in storage right now. One storage locker to go, and then I'm out of there completely. But anyhow, as far as the magazines and coon hunting stuff, when I quit hunting, well, not quit hunting, when I quit the books and everything, I put word of mouth out. I called 2 different coon clubs, the nearest ones to me, Blairsville, which is 50 miles away, and Laurelville. Laurelville's only 14 miles from me. And I told them, I said, hey, boys, you want these trophies? They're just like my wife used to say, dust catchers. That's, it was a thrill when you first won the first couple, and that soon wore off. And I said, you could use them for club hunts. I don't care what. I said, I got probably 40 that are over 4 foot tall. And Blairsville came down and got, I don't know how many they took, but probably at least 100. Laurelville did the same. I threw 650 in the dumpster. That's God's truth. And I had trophies that, you don't realize you got them till you start getting rid of them or something like that.
Yeah.
And but like I say, they're nice to look at, and I give a lot to relatives. My aunts say, they thought they were so beautiful and that. Well, when you start dusting them every week and so forth, you soon find out they ain't all they're made out to be. But it is a thrill when anybody would be lying if they denied that. We all like to win, but after a while, it just becomes a bit of a burden. And
well,
but I
that's
still
true.
go to a hunt occasionally. In fact, Patty called me today. She said, "Are you going to go to a hunt?" I says, "I give you my book." I says, "Where's a hunt at this week?" She said, "There ain't none next week, but there is, or this week, but there's one next week." And she told me where it was. I said, "Yeah, I'll be there. I got a dog that he just needs one win, and I might as well at least get that on him while he's living." And
Yeah.
so I like it, the meeting all the old guys, especially the old timers and that. Here's a guy from West Virginia. I don't know if you know him or not because but he is a Redbone man, but he's from West Virginia. The nicest guy you'll ever meet and most honest guy. He's dead now. He died this past year. Bill Shervant. You ever meet him?
Yes, I have, and I met him up around Clarksburg,
Where at?
in Clarksburg years ago.
Yeah.
I used to make the hunts up that way before
Okay.
before I
Gary
went
Davis,
to UKC.
Gary Davis country.
Yes, absolutely.
And he was a nice guy. He bought a lot of dogs off me, and I ain't saying that because he bought a lot of dogs. But he'd come up and hunt with me 3 or 4 times a year. And you'd never hear Bill say something bad about anybody, even if they were bad. But he was a true gentleman. And me and Bernie Grinchick went down to the funeral when he was laid out down there.
Well, you know, those people like that are what I call the salt of the earth people, and they've been the
Few and
back.
far.
Yeah,
Few and far.
yeah, absolutely. Fred, we're going to have to cut this one short. We've talked here for about almost 14 minutes, but we're going to be recording some more, so I want you to stick with me. But as I always say at the end of every podcast, friends, if somebody asks you where I am, where's that Steve Field or that old coon hunter, you just tell him he's gone to the dogs.
I'll remember that.